The Community Consolidated School District 46 Board of Education meeting, Wednesday evening, March 20th, beginning at 6 p.m. here at Frederick School. I need a call to order, please, with a roll call.
Mack.
Here.
Braden. Here. Nash. Absent. Albert. Here. LaCroix.
Here.
Miller. Here. And Weedman.
Here.
Okay, we've established quorum. Everybody please join me for the pledge. Thank you. I need a motion to approve this evening's agenda, please.
I'll move. I'll second.
Okay.
Miller. Aye. Mack.
Aye.
Albert. Aye. Weedman. Aye. Braden. Aye. And LaCroix.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Mack, I apologize. I need to just call in the...
Oh, yes, please do.
student
Yes,
reps.
yes,
I
our student
apologize.
reps. Yes, thank you.
Jaden Collins, Chloe Strabel, and Adeline Wolk.
Welcome to the board table this evening, to our student representatives. Do we have any public comments down on the end there?
Yes, we do. Doug Kearney?
Great. Mr. Kearney?
Hi, Doug Kearney around.
Head over to the microphone there, please.
If you don't speak into...
Yep, it's good to go.
It's official. Hi, Doug Kearney, Round Lake Beach. Busy place tonight, so I don't know if that's the wrestling team. I commend whatever it got going on. Forgive me for not knowing what's going on. Also busy in the parking lot. So you got your tax referendum, which I'm a little leery about, I got to admit. So hopefully, I just would like some assurances on how the additional revenue is going to be spent and whatever, like what your actual tax rate's going to be, since it's kind of open-ended now, and this district is basically the highest in the area for elementaries. So that's a concern. On the board, I sent you all something last month because I wasn't able to make the meeting. Just as, I've been in the district 30 years, have no kids, so in some ways I should be your dream taxpayer because I'm paying but not using. So just wondering how are people like me represented, retirees, et cetera, how are they represented on the board? Because you have filled in like half the board has been appointments, so that's where you have a little discretion in balancing things out. Then I notice you have the little resolution for a 2A thing, which I don't believe Second Amendment things are under the purview of the board. There's much bigger things, especially until you have at the top of the ranks of other schools. You shouldn't be stretching your bounds, but either way, that I don't believe that anything Second Amendment related is at all related to you, plus it's just a feel-good measure. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kearney, for your comments this evening. Do we have anybody else on the public comment list this evening?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. And now to the celebration for this evening. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Smith, and this evening we are celebrating the District 46 wrestling team.
Hi, thank you. This is just how I like it, a board meeting filled with GMS stuff tonight. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to start with our wrestling team, our very successful wrestling team. So I'm going to call our three coaches over so that they can come over and show themselves over here. So Coach Welter, Coach Bestanipur, and Coach Hines, come on over. We have a small representation of our wrestlers tonight because our team is usually filled with, 50-ish students, active wrestlers throughout the season. So I'm going to let coaches talk a little bit about our season for just a minute. We'll celebrate the heck out of these guys because it was a fantastic season again. This is our third year in a row of conference title and success during regionals, sectionals, and state. So congratulations to all of you, and I will get out of the way.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have such a big program, many dedicated kids that are very, very talented. A lot of them wrestle outside of just the school. They wrestle for clubs and some other things. And yeah, we're very, very lucky. And this year was my first year kind of being more in charge. And they made it very easy. Very proud of a lot of them, all of them. Sorry. They worked their butts off, and yes, there is a lot of them. They worked their butts off, and most of the time. But yeah, they work really hard, and yeah, we're just lucky to have all of you that helped us get over here when we didn't have anywhere to practice, and you know, we lost some time, but we made something work, and yeah, we had a great year. Hopefully it just keeps getting better every year now, and yeah, that's really all I got. Thank you all.
I do want to say one more thing before we celebrate the students. It is increasingly hard over the years that I've been here in District 46 to find really solid wrestling coaches who know what they're doing and being able to teach the sport. When I first started a long, long time ago, we had a plethora of options of people in the district that could come over and teach and know kids at the same time. All three of our coaches are not District 46 employees, but all three of them I have talked to individually about, hey, have you ever thought about being a teacher? Because just the way that they interact with middle school kids specifically, which is not always the easiest thing to do, and their ability to teach in a way that kids understand and listen to, because you remember you're working with middle schoolers, they don't always listen all the time. That is normal way of doing business. But I watch their practices, I watch how they're organized, I watch their structure, and it is really amazing. So hats off and lots of credit to the three of them for being really great coaches on top of being a successful trio of coaches that really helped a team come together this year. So fun stuff. So if we could have our wrestlers, stand up, please. And again, we have a small number of our wrestlers here tonight. We are a little beyond where our season ended. But we do have, and way down at the other end, and I'm going to have Coach Welter talk a little bit about him too. Dominic's all the way down there.
So, Mr. DeMarco over there, he is probably the easiest kid I've coached in the last 2 years. I mean, I've been coached a long time, but his work ethic is insane. He brought home his 3rd state title, and, you know, without that COVID year, he might have had 4. I'd like to think so. He's a very good leader and an amazing wrestler, you know, and he's out there until we really got to sectionals. It's kind of hard to coach him because he's already doing what I'm about to say before I have a chance to say it. And yeah, he's a remarkable young kid, and can't wait to see what he does in high school. So.
And then we also have Dylan Feltner, who is a wrestler that made state this year too, along with Gianna DeMarco as well. So the two of you just take a quick little step up and show that you are the two we just talked about as well.
Good. Yes. We do have some little ribbons for the wrestling team, so if each of you could come up to the board table and we'll do a picture with the board, would be great. Around so we could get a picture with the wrestlers, that would be fantastic. Or try to if they're, some of them are taller than us.
I was gonna say.
Maybe we should let's move to the front. The board should move around to the front. We're going to move around to the front, yeah.
Okay. Wrestlers and families, on the one hand, we would love for you to stay, and there's going to be a lot going on tonight that is GMS related. We also understand if you have other places to be, and so if you're going to exit prior to anything else, this would be the time. Oh, and coaches.
Congratulations. Okay, that brings us to the next, I'll let them exit the room before we start. Okay, we do have this evening's presentation, which is the Way of the Panther leadership team, so I'll turn that back over to GMS.
Again, thank you for allowing us some space and some time to bring some wonderful GMS students to you today. We spent some time over the last couple of weeks, and there was one specific GMS Panther back there that has really been bugging me a lot about, hey, when are we getting back to? Yeah, Jaden. When are we getting back to? I want to get back to. And she was 100% right, and just Mr. Smith was not quite ready after our big move. So we have done a lot of work in a fairly quick amount of time and have a year's worth of work in the next 2 months already planned for and ready to go. But tonight's presentation is something that, as we bring together about our 18-ish students on our leadership team together, I just get out of the way. So that's the fun part about it. I listen, I understand, I ask questions, I prompt with, hey, have you thought about? And then they just keep delivering time and time and time again. And you'll see in our presentation tonight, we ended up talking a little bit just about our move from the kid perspective here tonight. So thank you for that, and we're going to, I think, move on.
So our presentation is about our move to GMS East and how it affected our leadership team, us as students, and our school in general. We want to give a little timeline of our move to GMS East. So it started on January 12th, and we had an e-learning day because of bad weather. And between January 12th and the 23rd, we learned a lot about what was going on in our school and realized that we had mechanical issues and that we would have to move locations. So on the 23rd, we started school at GMS East. Then on January 25th, our winter sports resumed, and on January 29th, our intramurals resumed. On February 6th, band resumed to once a week, and on February 20th, band went back to a more normal schedule. We are excited to say that on April 12th, we are going on a whole building field trip where students will get to pick where they go based on what they're interested in.
Hi, I'm Jaden, and as you know, since our big move to GMS East, we have had a lot of changes in the classroom and our learning environment. With our big move to GMS East, we have had to change some procedures, and we have had certain classes be combined with other teams. Students have also had classes in different locations and areas throughout the floors and the school, so they have had to learn how to navigate them efficiently. Teaching plans have been affected as well because of the new resources or lack thereof. Teachers have sometimes not been able to keep their belongings in their classrooms because there might have been other classes after the day where CLC had to use those classrooms, or encore locations relating to our new adjustments to the school. And because of the absence of lockers, us as students, we have been using backpacks to move around the school and to carry our supplies. It has been sort of challenging, but we've gotten used to it and we've adapted to it. The PA system and hot lunch were also impacted by our move, but throughout all of this, students have found seamless ways to transition back into learning, and teachers have also put in the work to do this too. So in preparation for this presentation, From the students, we have gathered data on how they have felt for this move to GMS and how they felt just in general in the overall learning environment. So our students have mostly felt neutral about this move. There has been some tough parts about it, and we all know that, because it is not an easy thing to do to move to a whole nother school on such a short notice. And we have gathered quotes from our students to kind of show what students are thinking in their brains and how they're dealing with this transition. I will be reading one quote, and if you would like to read the rest, you can. I like the classes a lot. It's really great to be in a lecture hall for social studies. It really feels like a college classroom, and I really like it. The classrooms are really nice and a lot better than GMS ones. The only thing I don't like is that we have band in the morning. That is kind of annoying, and I don't like it. I wish we could do it more often during the school day. And this was an anonymous survey, so we have gathered a lot of data on students' opinions and how they just feel about this whole situation. And in that quote, you can really see there's positives and negatives in that quote, and there might be a neutral in between, but that's really how all students feel in this school, and it's just a learning process for all of us, even teachers.
We also made more specific questions to ask the students to see how they felt about our field trips to the Tech Campus and CLC. Now, as you can see, it was really more on the positive side because it helped students gather more information about college credit and more things to know about high school. Some people on our leadership team were surprised to know that a lot of the students, well, almost a 50-50 split, really liked GMS more than GMS East. And that was interesting to know because, as you can see from the other quote we got, it was, they liked having it in the lecture hall, or like some of the classes were nicer. But yeah, yeah. Yes. We also gave a survey to the staff just to see their opinions because that matters too. And they really, we had almost 90% of them say that they were doing better than before, and they were not struggling as much as the beginning because it's a very big shift. I'm going to read one of the quotes, and if you would like to take a look at the other, that's good too. I had a hard time transitioning to the new schedule stamina-wise, but now I'm used to it. I like the GMS main schedule a lot. The GMS East schedule, having 3 cores back-to-back to the end of the day, and the early lunch prep took some getting used to. Now this survey was also anonymous, just so we could get how they felt without actually having to know who they were.
We would also like to talk about the athletic and the extracurricular shifts. So even though we were moving buildings and we didn't have in-person PE, we were still able to stay active through walks outside and online PE assignments. We're also able to keep up with extracurriculars by using a program called DriveLine in order to call sports down and other activities to ensure that everyone gets to their practices and their games on time. Clubs and intramurals were also continued throughout our time at GMS East.
So we have also had sports going on and continued at GMS East because GMS is all about their sports. I mean, what can we say? We just had the wrestling team in here, so this is just kind of an update on how our sports are going and how the Panther performance is overall. So volleyball and wrestling practices have been held at Frederick. Wrestling won conference, and 8 wrestlers made it to state with 1 champion, as you saw. We have also had the dance team. They performed at GMS at the GMS versus Frederick basketball game that was held at Frederick. Track season has gotten off to a great start. We will be utilizing different places for the upcoming season, and both Central and North High Schools will be have opened their arms to us. As a track student or athlete, it's amazing just to have this opportunity to be more available, to have like the tracks open to us and to be able to use them to increase our performance on the track and possibly off in the future. The bowling team has stayed the same and has been improving with practice. Scholastic Bowl has been practicing at GMS East and has had many competitions, and Science Olympiad has had much success this season because they earned 4th place in regionals. They continued their yearly trip to state, and we are so proud of them.
Next, the performing arts. As a student who is in 2 choirs and 2 bands, I've really been able to see the developments and how we've been working through this. The choirs have both earned a Division I rating in the recent contest we went to, and they're both singing at a high level and able to meet consistently every single week. Symphonic band has had a few attendance problems, but it's getting better with time. We're performing well, and we have a contest and concert at the same time on April 4th, I think. That's coming up soon, yes. Wind Ensemble, their attendance is almost 100. They're also going to be performing in the concerts. The jazz band is still going to the Chicago Jazz Showcase in April, and we also earned a Division I rating in our recent contest. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is the play that was just held at Park campus, and the rehearsals were held there. The production went extremely well, and it was student-led under the direction of the GMS staff.
So as with any new process that we have to plan for and work through, there are aspects of what we're doing at GMS East that I think are going to be just part of how we do business at GMS in the future. And a couple of those really came out of having to take field trips early on because we did not have our available building those 2 days, and going to the tech campus and going to CLC. And having both of those resources in our backyards in Grays Lake, and never really, and I've been here for a long time, and never really utilizing that the way that we were forced to this time, but wanting to understand how we can continue to use them in the future. So I think field trips will be in our future for sure. Also getting into looking at the tech campus and the Future Quest program that they have for 7th and 8th graders. We have almost 30 students who have signed up for the Future Quest. That takes place on April 9th, so right after we get back from spring break. And then, as was alluded to with our upcoming field trip, we have 4 different places that we're taking our students, to the Brookfield Zoo, to Canlan Sports facility in Libertyville, to the Volo Auto Show, or Auto Museum, and then to a brain teaser museum, which is up in Burlington. And it's been fun to know how many kids that we could take and kind of hope that they all fit in. And at last look, before I left, we were able to give everybody their first choice. So I think it's going to be a great differentiated opportunity for all of our kiddos, which is a pretty amazing opportunity too. I do want to, before we get to some thank yous towards the end and our next steps, I wanted to talk about a little bit of the updates. I wanted to show off what our new gym looks like at GMS currently, because that's a pretty slick gym for sure. So that will be finished by mid next week, I think we're being told. Insulation is currently still being installed in our 8th grade classrooms, and that should be done, as I walked through yesterday and saw one of the managers, by the end of this week, I was told. I believe around 7 coils have been fully delivered and installed, with the remaining coming yet this week to be installed over the next 2. And then working on the cleanup in the classrooms, with still the expectation of full completion on April 26th. So we're still looking at that deadline for our move back the following week to GMS.
Is it working? We would like to also talk about what is next for our team. So the next step for the Council of Pamper Representatives team will be to bring life back to GMS, because they'll probably not be in the best mood, because it's gonna be different, obviously, to get back into it, because we were in a different building, so it's a little weird. And so we're gonna come up with ways to transition seamlessly back into GMS. Our students have truly gotten settled into GMS East, so we want to bring our school spirit and attitude back to GMS when we return. We will have to find an efficient way to move all the supplies and get back into normal schedules when we return. Gym classes will be started back up as normal, and sports practices will be held at GMS again. So getting everything back to normal is something our leadership team will be working on to show our gratitude towards our students and to celebrate the dedication of our staff, because it was very difficult to be in a different situation. So we're all very proud of them. And so because of that and how good they were, we will be having a welcome back assembly. We have made great memories at GMS East, but all good things must come to an end. On that note, new beginnings are always possible at GMS. These are just a list of the Council Pemper representatives member as just a little refresher so you can look at that. So we would like to thank you for the support throughout the move. We specifically would like to thank the University Center, Frederick School, Park Campus, and both the D127 high schools, Antioch Upper Grade School, Woodland Middle School, and CLC for helping us throughout our time at GMS East. And of course, thanks to the board for allowing us to share updates and opinions about our unique circumstances. We look forward to seeing you in May. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Do any board members have any questions or comments they'd like to share with our leadership team this evening? Ms. Miller?
I just had a quick question about the jazz showcase. This is totally selfish, but do you know when it is? What date it is? I know you said April. Yeah, I know you said April. I just wasn't sure if you said a date. Okay.
April 2nd.
Just so excited about
The
that.
2nd of April.
April 2nd? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I just want to share how impressed I was by all the great data you brought. I love data. So qualitative data, quantitative data. It was really helpful for me to hear all the different perspectives, and I think the positive, neutral, and negative really summed it up. And the other thing I was thinking about is really, those of you who are 8th graders, you learned how to play your instrument like at home during COVID, and here, now you're doing GMS East, and so I'm not gonna be that adult that says, this is gonna be so great for your growth. But I'd be very interested in 10 years, I'd be really interested in hearing like your look back on just the time frame that you went through with so much that you had to adapt to, and I'd be really interested in hearing your perspective of it as an adult, like looking back on it to hear, you know, what you took from it in the long run. So thank you, and can vouch, jazz band's on fire. They were amazing at McHenry at their contest, and I cannot wait for Jazz Showcase. So thank you for coming.
I don't know, I know we have some students who are staying for the board meeting. Are our students who are not staying heading out, or? Okay, one's going, are you going too? Okay, all right. Thank you so much for being here tonight. All right, and our students at the board table, I just wanted to share, I had a chance to speak with these folks, I think 2 of them, and then Mr. Smith kind of spoke with our third member tonight. We talked a little bit about the agenda and what kinds of things they might be wanting to comment on, what kinds of things board members might be wanting to ask them questions about. So they're ready to go, and folks, just chime in whenever you're ready, okay? All right, we're so glad you're here.
Okay, that brings us to the board reports for this evening. I'm going to go ahead and start this evening in the middle with a couple of things. There is a statement I need to read about the review of minutes that we conducted at the last meeting. The Board of Education reviewed the closed session minutes for the period of July 2023 to December 2023, and the closed session minutes will not be released. I do also want to celebrate the success of the referendum vote yesterday evening. I think that is a wonderful success for our community, where the schools are a strong pillar of and foundation of the community that we all live and serve in. And so I want to express my gratitude as a board member and as a parent to the support that the community gave to the district, and we're looking forward to moving forward with that. I also wanted to give an opportunity to my fellow board members to comment if they wish to do so this evening.
Just to echo the referendum passing, I wanted to thank Dr. Glickman and Mr. Wildman and all the staff that went out and did the, for lack of a better term, dog and pony show. They did probably almost a dozen of them, getting our information out. Thank you to Leslie for helping with the getting the information out on our website and on our Facebook page and everything, so our social media was well covered. Passing a referendum is hard, and it was closer than I thought it was going to be. So I'm proud that all the work that we put into it, and I'm looking forward to working with the strategic plan that we worked so hard to put together a year or so ago, and like getting that implemented so that we can move forward as the district. That's the reason why we did that strategic plan. So we had a plan, and we needed the money to implement it.
So I wanted to thank everyone who voted, whether you voted for it or against it. I just am so grateful for people who participate, and because public education matters. It's an institution that provides education certainly for kids, but it also provides a healthy economic vitality for our community, which impacts people's property values. And in the future, it ensures that we have a very large collective capacity to care for our elders and anyone in our community who whether they go to school or not. As someone who doesn't have children in the district anymore, I'm just really, really proud of our community and very much appreciate, again, everyone who voted for it and also everyone who voted against it. I hope that you will be pleased with the investment that you've made, and I look forward to being a part of making that happen because our staff is amazing. So I'll echo what Jim said. Thank you so much to Dr. Glickman and to Mr. Wildman and to Leslie and everyone who worked so hard on this, on making sure that people could cast informed votes. So thank you.
I'll just echo and build on what Ms. Miller said. I wanted to thank our taxpayers and our voters as well. And I really like what you said, that, you know, anyone who votes gets a gold star in my book, and especially in a primary in March. So we really appreciate it. We appreciate the trust that you've put in us, and we don't take it lightly. It's a big responsibility to ask for that amount of money and then to spend it wisely and to be good stewards. And I think one of the things that I have been very proud of about this board is that we have been as transparent and planful as possible leading up to asking for the money. We have a strategic plan that outlines exactly why we need the money, where we will spend it, and I have no doubt that we will spend it with fidelity to the plan. There is a plan. And then I would just encourage anyone who is interested to watch our board meetings, read the board packets, go back and watch discussions where we've brought financial decisions to the table and the discussions that we've had about them, and then take a look at our budget and our audit, which is all available on the website. It's extremely transparent, so anything you want to know is there, and you can come watch these conversations happen in public as well. So thank you for being involved, and stay involved. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything new to add to what's already been said, but I did want to add my voice to a note of gratitude for those who helped educate the voting public on what it is we needed and why we were asking for the money in the first place. I did also note, Jim, that it was much narrower victory than I would have thought it would have been, and I think it really highlights the fact that, you know, it's really incumbent upon us as a board, as an administration, as a school community, really, to ensure that we actualize the vision of what this measure was intended to do. You know, we are stewards. We take that role very seriously, and I think whether you're a person who's got several kids in the district, you're a retiree, you've never had kids, and you're in the district, I think that, you know, your school is still a benefit for you, right? A good school district has many benefits. It props up property values. It attracts employers. It's just a pleasant place to live and a pleasant, you know, place to call home. So Again, thanks for everyone who voted. Thank you for all the hard work to get there, and I'm pleased with the outcome.
Going last is kind of hard because everybody's said everything that I would have said. So I will just echo gratitude to the community for getting out and voting, regardless of which way you voted. And to the community members who came out to the meetings that Dr. Glickman and Mr. Wildman offered. There's a very informative, so if you are one of those people who hasn't been paying attention and you have decided you want to now, I highly encourage watching the video because it does teach you a lot. And I went to a couple of those meetings and they were very sparsely attended. So I hope that the next time around, if there is a next time in future years, referendums show up periodically. I hope more people pay attention and show up, but I am grateful for the ones who did. And to finish my board report, I'd just like to say, this one's for the youth at the table. You have probably seen a sign as you head to GMS East each day, but there is a young musician who is a UN Youth Climate Ambassador, and he's performing at CLC on April 4th. And just wanted to throw that out there for you.
Okay. I will turn it over to Dr. Glickman for the superintendent's report.
All right, I'm actually going to hand it to Mrs. Gluck to do a brief topic. I'm going to head to the front for my topic.
Good evening. I have one topic to talk about tonight, and that is the Illinois Grade School Music Association contest that was just held at Park Campus recently. And want to begin by just saying thank you to Park Campus, to their music, all the music staff, the administration, custodial staff. It had to turn around really quick from initially being scheduled at GMS to being at Park. So they did a great job turning that around, and we had, I believe if I counted correctly, there were approximately 15 schools that attended the contest. And so, you know, and I also want to recognize, so at contest, there are several ratings that the groups can get. Superior is the highest one, that's a Division I, and Excellent is a Division II. All of our choirs and bands received either a Division I or a Division II. So I want to recognize those right now because that is amazing. So we had our Grays Lake Middle School 7-8 treble choir received a rating of Division I, which is that Superior. Park Campus Concert Choir also received a Division I. Grays Lake Middle School Ladies Honors Select received a Division I, and our Park Campus Symphonic Band received a Division II. So all amazing and excellent, and want to acknowledge that. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Glickman.
Thought we were turned on. There we go. All right, board. Well, I am not sure if you're aware, but I think you are aware that yesterday, and including many weeks leading up to yesterday, our community said yes to our request for a $6 million limiting rate extension. So tonight, I'm going to thank our community, just like you did, talk about the actual results of the referendum, talk about what the money will be used for, and that was alluded to a little bit ago, talk about the timeline for the collection and usage of the funds, and some considerations moving forward. And I'd like to thank our community for providing additional funding for empowering learners, creating equity, and cultivating community. There are many categories of people to thank. First of all, our teachers union and PSRP union, and all of the staff members who helped to share our messages about why more funds have been needed, and provided a variety of other important supports that resulted in a yes from the community. You were instrumental in passing the referendum. Also, thank you to the parents, guardians, and community members who donated their time and effort to passing the referendum. Your support made the result possible as well. I want to thank the individuals who provided ideas and feedback along the way regarding how the message was communicated. The message that needed to be delivered was indeed incredibly complicated. Yes, Mr. Wildman? Yes. And we got a lot of feedback, and I'll be honest, sometimes that feedback was hard to hear, but it was really important for us to hear because it ultimately played a huge role in passing the referendum because you helped us to clarify our message. So thank you to those who provided that feedback. Thank you to the community members, board members, and staff who, well over a year ago, were attending facilities options meetings and the community task force. Your work resulted in a ballot question that was approved by voters. We couldn't have done this without your work well over a year ago. I would personally like to thank Chris Wildman, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance, Leslie Armstrong, our Communications Coordinator, for the many, many nights and weekends of presentations. We are also often joined by Amanda Pelser, our Director of Innovation, who provided very important tech support as we put our presentation on in a wide variety of spaces. Thank you also to all of the community members and administrators who attended those meetings and asked really important questions. Answering your questions ultimately resulted in passing the referendum. And of course, Board of Education, and somebody already said this, but I want to echo it. I believe that the community saying yes to this funding request is one way that they have of thanking you and showing you that you're trusted. All right, let's move forward to the actual election results. So as you can see, this referendum request passed with a 52.58% yes vote. Now, I note that provisional ballots and late arriving vote-by-mail ballots are not included, but we have been told that they are typically just a handful of those ballots and not enough to change the results of the election. And as you can see, because it was not an election where a lot of people were voting, every single vote was incredibly important. So, we said that we would talk about what this $6 million every year will be for. This should not come as a surprise to you. If you have read any of the materials that have come out, if you've listened to or watched any of the board meetings where we talked about these or any of the presentations, we've kind of been on repeat about these topics. The approved limiting rate request provides $6 million annually, 50% for capital needs, 50% for operating needs. Those capital needs are funding emergency response systems, security cameras, addressing maintenance and infrastructure needs, updating our libraries for collaboration and STEM learning, reconfiguring and renovating student support spaces. And then there are operating needs, attracting, retaining, and training very high-quality teachers, protecting our current programming, and you heard tonight about some of that very important programming that we have, and maintaining class sizes. All right, now we're going to talk about when new funds are available. And board, I'm hoping you can see that, okay? All right, I want to walk us through this and talk about what's going to happen over the next few years, year by year. And we're going to just jump down to the bottom because I know your eyes have done so. You can see that the extra funds are not actually available until the 26-27 school year. I'm going to talk about why that is, but I also want to reassure our board and any public, members of the public who are watching this, that that doesn't mean that we can't find ways to fill in the gaps. And we're going to talk about that in the next slide, okay? But I want to walk us through this first. So here we are in the 23-24 school year, and you can see there's a 0 for extra funds available. That's pretty obvious, right? The referendum vote was yesterday. Nothing happens this year except that we are celebrating the passage of that referendum vote. But what about next year, right? Wouldn't there be $6 million available next year? Well, the answer to that question is no. Why is that? So next year, the school board will levy that, will increase the rate, the limiting rate increase to $6 million. So there'll be that increase that they will vote on. That will be the levy. However, additional monies from taxpayers is never collected until the next year. That's how levies work, right? We levy it in one year, we collect it the next. So the $6 million is also not available in the 24-25 school year. Well, what about the next year? It would make sense that the next year it would be available. It still isn't available, and that's because of the commitment that we made to our taxpayers, which we believe significantly helped in communicating our message and ultimately passing the referendum. And that commitment was to not raising the tax rate. If money was going to be available in the 25-26 school year, we would have had to raise the tax rate, and we are committed to not doing that. So here's how this works, and this is the year that is the most complicated, so please bear with me. So the district will collect that $6 million, right? They will have levied it, we will have levied it the year before in 24-25. It'll be collected in 25-26. But I'm going to zoom forward to something that's going to happen in November of 25. November 1st, 2025, the final payment will be made to the debt service, and that final payment from the debt service will be made. That debt is for paying off Park Campus, which we know was built about 19 years ago. That'll happen in November of 2025. Well, when we collect the money from the 2024 levy in 2025, 2026, when we collect that, that money will go into the Ed Fund. At the same time, we are going to be, I want to say this the right way for you, we're going to be abating, which means really reducing what we would be collecting in the debt service by $6 million. So the money will come into the Ed Fund, but in the debt service fund, the fund that we have to use to pay off that last payment, we're not going to collect $6 million in that account, because if we did, we'd have to raise the tax rate for our taxpayers. So instead, we're just going to transfer that $6 million from the Ed Fund over to debt service to use it to make that final payment. That is what is allowing the tax rate to still go down for our taxpayers. Then we make that final payment, and that brings us to the 26-27 school year, where the $6 million is again collected and is available for expenditures, because that has all been paid off. We're no longer going to be paying off Park Campus. That was a long explanation that shows that the money is not available until 26-27. Now that may feel disappointing to some people, but it doesn't mean that we don't have ways to be able to do some projects that we need to do. So I'm going to go to this next piece. Here are our next steps and considerations. We had some board members talk earlier about our strategic plan and I think our long-range facility plan. We know that that long-range facility plan needs to be updated. That work will happen this summer, actually. Just today, we're talking with Wold Architects about updating our long-range facility plan so that we can make commitments about what our highest priorities are. Then, we can work with underwriters to consider selling bonds. And the purpose of doing that will be being able to fund facility projects so that that work can begin before we start getting that additional $3 million of funds into our O&M fund from the levy that will come in 26-27. So assuming that the board doesn't want to wait until 26-27 to begin some of that important work, we'll be talking with underwriters to consider selling bonds so we can get that work started. And the last piece of that, and not a discussion for this evening, I don't think, but the board is going to need to consider your tolerance for future deficit spending before receiving that additional $3 million funds in the education fund from the levy in 26-27, right? Because again, we won't have the $3 million from the referendum to be used in the operating fund either until 26, 27. So board, you're going to have to think about that, and that's a conversation I think we'll be having over time as to how much deficit spending can you as a board support. I guess it's a much better way than saying than tolerate. How much can you support so that we can do the things that we need to do moving forward until the referendum money becomes available. So those are our next steps and considerations. I have to end again with a giant thank you to our community and to everybody who was a part of decision-making, recommendations, and actually helping bring forth the vote. And with that, board, I'd love to know if you have any questions or comments. All right then. Either I was very thorough or I don't know what. Okay. No questions.
Okay. Yes, of course. Yes. There are no student reports this evening. I was notified. They did the report, right. Right. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Glickman. So just a few things. I attended the Lake County Community Partners for Sustainability that met at CLC this week and found out a few things that I think are relevant to us as a board and also relevant to our students. So the first one is for waste management. SWALCO received an REO grant that's focused on supporting widespread recycling, education, and outreach, thus REO. This is provided by the Inflation Reduction Act, puts money directly into our community's coffers. It's a $2 million grant, and 40% of it must be spent on environmental justice initiatives. So if this is helpful for our waste management initiatives, I wanted to make sure that you are aware. Pete Adrian from SWALCO is the contact for that, if anyone's interested. The college, this is exciting. The College of Lake County will break ground for an urban farm center in Waukegan at its Lakeshore campus, and the architectural plans are pretty amazing. It's an urban farm that has growing spaces in addition to retail space, instructional space, and distribution systems for our local food sheds. So that pipeline helps every single person in our county. Additionally, they're piloting a produce prescription program, and given the increase in health costs, I thought this might be worthwhile to pay attention to. It's a partnership between healthcare providers and urban farmers to improve citizens' health through nutrient-dense food. It's actually a prescription. So a person would go to the doctor, and the doctor would give that patient, a prescription to go get a box of food, and it's specific to a lot of ailments, but to diabetes and cancer prevention. So I thought that might be salient to us. And then specifically for students, there were Eagle Scouts. I don't know if you have friends or peers who are Eagle Scouts, but they have adopted several badges that can be gained for sustainability through a whole bunch of initiatives through that urban farm. So I thought that might be interesting for you. And I will echo Mrs. Albert's announcement. AY is a musical artist. Again, as she said, he was commissioned by the United Nations to produce 17 songs, one song for each of the Sustainable Development Goals. And he is he's put on a concert tour called the Battery Tour. He's the first musician to run his tour on completely 100% renewable energy, clean energy too. And he's performing at CLC on April 4th. And the tickets are $9, and I think they're $5 for students. So you can get those online. So that's my board report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Mr. Weedman, did you have anything else to add to your earlier comments? Mrs. Braden? Mr. LaCroix? And Mrs. Albert, you did yours. Thank you for bringing me back to those. Yes, yes, I appreciate that. Okay, that brings us to this evening's consent agenda, so I do need a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the personnel addendum that was sent to us earlier this afternoon.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay.
Braden?
Aye.
LaCroix?
Aye.
Albert?
Aye.
Miller? Aye. Mack?
Aye.
And Weedman?
Aye.
Very good. We've got some action items that we have this evening on our list. The first one, I need a motion to approve the food service contract with Organic Life LLC.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, and we've got a presentation this evening for that. We've got 2 presentations for that tonight. That's right, and food. I think that outweighs the presentation, so.
It does.
Move it along, Mr. Wildman.
That's right, I'll try my best, I'll try my best. All right, at the November 29th, 2023 Finance Committee, the administration made a recommendation to use the request for proposals, RFP, fixed rate option, allowable through the Better Schools Lunches Act, to select a food service management company to manage the district's food service program. This option allows the school district more flexibility outside of the traditional invitation for bid, IFB process, which requires school districts to select the lowest bid. So we wanted to give you, as a community, the whole kind of update on the process that led to the selection of Organic Life. So that's why we're just doing a quick presentation first. So after we met in November, we decided to obviously move forward with the correct way to move forward. Here's our mission: a healthy food program. Sorry, let me start again. District mission: a healthy food program for all our students accomplishes all these things. It empowers learners so they are not hungry. It creates equity, as everyone is eating the same delicious food, and it cultivates a community where healthy food is celebrated. Just a quick quote here: you don't need a silver fork to eat good food. I think we can all agree with that. Strategic plan and board policy. The food service management contract is over $1 million and is one of the larger agreements that we bring to you annually. So I'm very pleased to bring a contract that's come from a very, very positive RFP process. Okay, so this is the same slide that I presented to you back in November, and it was a snapshot of where we were in food service in schools. I'm not going to go through all of these, but it's worth remembering that all of these issues got brought to bring out better legislation. And that better legislation is the Better Schools Lunches Act. And that passed into law into the summer of 2022, and this removed the lowest bid as give us flexibility to move forward and the autonomy to allow districts to cater to their own needs. So we made a recommendation in November to try the RFP, and this was new to everybody. So here's the timeline we put together at the November meeting. Creation of the RFP over the month of December of 2023, which had to be brought to the state. We got the approval from ISB on December 28th, and we issued it to the world on January 22nd. Proposals were due on March 4th, and we are bringing our recommendation to the Board of Education this evening. Here is the rubric that we used as the evaluation criteria, and these were the responses that were built into the rubric. Sorry, I just need to take a breath. Okay, I'm better. On to the sorry. No, it's okay. On to the results. We received 3 proposals which were accepted by the district. The winning proposal was Organic Life LLC, and the winning proposal was lower than our current meal rate with ABBA. So on to next steps. Following your approval of the winning proposal, complete the process with the state, and we're looking forward to start our new school year with Organic Life. Do you have any questions about the RFP and the result? Okay, I'd like next to bring Organic Life to the podium to speak with you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Chris, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. My name is Jonas Falk, and I'm the chairman and CEO of Organic Life Smart Food Service. When I started the company 20 years ago, I just couldn't figure out why I had such bad school lunch at Nutri High School. And as a young chef traveling through Paris, I couldn't understand why school food couldn't be great. 20 years later, a lot more gray hair, Organic Life serving over 100 million meals a year. We're one of the 10 largest food management companies in the world, and our mission has not changed. It was to bring restaurant quality food service to every single school district. I believe every district, especially Grays Lake here, should have the best food service program akin to any of the best food courts or colleges in the world. And that's what we've done. And we're going to do it here as well. We're absolutely thrilled to work with Dr. Glipman again and Mr. Wildman. We've known them both in the past, and you know, the only perk of growing by 100 million meals a year is not only are we the most competitive from a pricing standpoint, but we're also the best food service company, and we're going to do some really amazing things here in Grays Lake. So I'll go through this presentation if I need to. You got it? Sorry, thank you. I'll screw it up. So again, as I touched on, we've been around for almost 20 years. We technically started the company in 2004. We're now in over 100 school districts in the Midwest. We're in many local districts close by here in Grays Lake. We have over 5,000 employees. Again, the premise was bringing all of my restaurant pals from 20 years ago. I ran a very fancy French restaurant called Le Francais and went around to all my chef friends in the industry. I said, hey, would you guys like nights off and weekends off and, you know, your birthday off and summers off? And they all said, this sounds like the greatest job ever. So, you know, it was pretty easy to convince them to come in and serve, you know, kids' favorites, and that's really what we do. Again, our experience, our resource are second to none. We're really proud of the fact that, and Jillian, our Vice President of Biz Dev, has been here for about a year now. She sees that every district you call of ours will give us a great reference. Every district we treat as our best client and put the same resources on the site to make sure that it's a perfect operation. The kids have the best food. I really take it personally. Again, I've been very grateful to be successful in this business and grow this business. I'm still here. I love what I do every single day. The owners of the 9 other largest food management companies in the world do not show up to school board presentations. I love this. I love being here, and we love serving great food to the kids every single day, and it's something we're just really passionate about. We want to make sure that they're having the best meal, as Chris talked about. And throughout the pandemic, it became even more evident that kids needed better food. And we're grateful for the state for implementing these changes. Again, the last 20 years, for those of you who don't know contract food service, it was low bid wins generally. And it was really a race to the bottom, and who could provide the worst food at the worst price would come in and feed the kids. And we've spent an inordinate amount of money trying to change that and said, we want everything to be competitive. We want to provide the best to the district. And we're very grateful that legislation has changed. And again, the perk of growing as large as we have is we can still offer it at a competitive price, but it's been a great change for everybody, and the students are going to be a huge beneficiary next year of what we're going to do here, because it's going to be special. Again, most important for us and for you, you know, everything we do. When I started Organic Life, there was about 8 Whole Foods around. Nobody really knew what organic was. Our food is not certified organic. People asked the question back then. It was really the mantra of cooking food from scratch. We cook more food from scratch than any K through 12 food management company on the planet. We still live by the same echoes. I know sustainability is a big thing here. It's not just a buzzword. It was, you know, back 20 years ago when I started this, you would actually call the owner of 7 Generations and all these companies that have blown up over 20 years, and you'd call John Mackey at Whole Foods, and he'd answer the phone, and you know, you guys would talk with each other, and because of that, we've been buying these products for 20 years. It's a little different now, buying, you know, 100 million of them at a time, but because we were so far ahead of everybody in this landscape of products, we've just got a huge advantage, and it's built into our DNA at Organic Life. Again, we're very grateful to be here. We're very grateful for the trust that you guys have placed in us. We are so excited to get started. We told Chris we're gonna blow him away in the entire district and put our entire team and the resources of Organic Life here to make this the best food service program in the area. And we just want to say thank you so much for having us. Any questions we can answer for anybody, or?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Really, really excited. I remember might have been my first meeting, maybe my second. One of our community members, who's now a staff member, challenged us to increase the nutrient content of our food. And I've never forgotten and very much appreciate her and her husband, who happens to be sitting on the board next to me. So thank you. And also wanted just to say I'm really excited about the Zero Waste Lunch. commitment that you have. And I wanted to challenge our students because you are our feedback loops. So really hoping, as much as we trust and are so excited about what we've heard today, really hoping that you guys will come back and tell us what it's like on the front line. But with that, as a board member, we've been challenged tonight to monitor the expenses that we allocate. So I'm wondering what you would suggest we use as monitoring criteria.
For the overall food service program or just in general? So we always gauge it on participation. I mean, every district we've ever taken over in 20 years, we've increased participation drastically. I mean, to have, not necessarily here, but to have a district where a school meal is free every single day and kids don't take it, it's a pretty clear sign that the food is bad. And that's a very sad thing to us. So for us, we gauge it on the participation, and are we going to increase participation? Are the kids going to come in and want to eat a lunch every day? Kids are not shy. They're gonna make it known if they don't like a product. And for 20 years, people have told me every single year, you know, when it was me and my business partner and another guy, Jonas, you can't talk to everybody and go to every school district and cook every meal and be involved. And then we had 20 districts and 50 districts and 500 districts and all these employees, and we're still doing it. And I think that's the real key. There's always, in the restaurant business, there was a saying, you know, if there was a problem on Monday, it better be fixed by Tuesday. And in the K through 12 space, when you're serving hundreds of millions of meals, it's really hard, and there's a big chain of command, and people can't change things. Well, you know, Jillian and everybody else in our company, they know if there's a problem, it has to be fixed the next day. And you guys all know the CEO. Everybody will have my phone number and my email. They can all reach out to me anytime. I'm answering emails all day long. If there's a problem, you guys, it will get fixed the next day. And that's really how we gauge internally, how quickly are we solving problems, because unfortunately, the food service is nothing but problems every single day. That's really all you deal with. It's just how few problems can you have. And so that's, between that and participation, is really the best way to gauge how's the program going. Of course.
I don't know if this is one of the most important things for me to glean from your presentation, but in my day job, I am a French teacher at a local high school.
Oh, hey.
And so one of our big conversations that we have every year in our units is the differences between school food programs in France versus the United States, and it always engenders an enormous amount of conversation. I think I'm going to need to reach out to my board colleagues in that district and see if they can I'm inspired by the fact that you have training in France, and we probably could talk French if you.
Well, I was just,
you know.
I was worried you were going to talk to me.
No, well, one of these days I'm going to run the whole meeting in French.
They
5 minutes and done.
20 years ago, they would eye roll me when I would try to speak.
But it's just
so.
very inspiring to hear that, because it really resonates with the students just from a conversation point of view. So I want you to know that conversation happens
That's great.
in classrooms, you know, where you might not think that school food programming is an interesting unit topic for a language classroom, but it's fascinating. And so this is really encouraging.
And the excuse has always been, well, you participate in the National School Lunch Program, you have to follow these restrictions, you can't do
Right.
this, you can't serve that, you have to use, you know, government cheese commodities and these products. And really it all comes down to cooks, you know,
Right.
who has the best cooks in the kitchen can make the best product, you know, for everybody. And so that's really what we've done for 20 years, is cultivate the best culinary team in the business. And so we're all working with relatively similar products. We're lucky that we have a leg up and can buy the nicer products at a better price. But really it comes down to who do you have working for you. And so we have 500% more chefs than anybody else in this business because of our relationships. And that's it. I don't know how to do anything else besides this. It's just cooking school lunches every day. So anything else we could help answer?
Well, thank you for being here tonight, first of all.
For sure.
So we all know that fresh, whole, and local food costs more than prepackaged, frozen,
Sure.
processed food. Can you explain how you're able to keep your costs competitive, even though you're whole, fresh, and in many cases local? And I just don't want to hear a story about size, but be more specific than that.
So I would actually disagree a little bit. I think the frozen and pre-made products in the institutional world are a lot of times more expensive than cooking from scratch, okay? So a lot of it has to do with that. It's cheaper to make a lot of your products and do them on site and make your own pizza dough and make your own pizzas than to bring in a finished product. And that really increased because of the pandemic. The cost of running a factory, the cost of the labor, all of those products went up 300, 400%, whereas the raw scratch products only went up 150%. So that's a big kind of misnomer about the industry. Other than that, I mean, size really does play a big factor. You know, I have a partner of mine for 20 years was a gentleman named Larry Levy, who owned Levy Restaurants. And he was very successful, and, you know, if you ever had a hot dog or a drink at a Cubs game, it was Levy Restaurants. And Larry sold his business, and I remember him telling me the story. He's a wildly successful guy, and he said, I can't believe this company paid me, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know how they're going to pay the bill. I'm rushing to cash my check. I don't know how it's going to work. And Larry would buy $150 million a year worth of Coca-Cola every year. $150 million just on Coca-Cola. So you think he's a pretty big buyer. Well, the following month, he went to buy the same Coke under his new partner, who was much bigger, and it cost $80 million for that same 150. So the economies of scale in this business really does impact the overall cost structure. And so that's something to be able to maintain the standards that we have and the culinary products that we have and really survive the first 10 years as you're growing, serving these great products at this price, has made a huge difference. So there's really no other secret to it. It's the economies of scale that we have and the really talented people that we have in the kitchen who can make these ingredients taste great. Anybody else?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
I noticed in your mission statement that you talk about embracing ecologically sound practices, and I
Sure.
wondered if you could explain a little bit more what you mean by that.
It comes down to sourcing, really sourcing of products. I think, you know, before local was like a big word or a buzzword, you know, we would say, why can't we buy apples from this guy instead of from 500 miles away, right? And for, you know, from zero waste kitchens, right? How do you have a zero waste kitchen? You serve 2 or 3 really, really delicious food items that the kids are going to eat everything, as opposed to 30 or 40 kind of mediocre items that they're going to throw in the trash. You know, 43% of the national food in the National School Lunch Program goes in the trash every single day. I mean, the impact is horrible, and the kids are throwing it in the trash because it doesn't taste good. So it's really just what you're doing with the products, what you're doing at the business, where you're buying. Can you buy local? Are you serving really good food that the kids are going to eat instead of throw in the trash? And that's always been a mission statement of how we run the business.
Okay, board, before you vote on this agenda item, I first wanted to find out if our student reps had either questions they wanted to ask, or if you had any comments for the Board of Education about what you think is important to be considering when bringing in a food service company. Anything you wanted to say? Nope. Okay, just wanted to offer you that. And then I think people may have noticed that our Organic Life Friends brought us some lovely snacks. So at the end of the meeting tonight, I think we'll just invite our guests to grab a snack. So thank you very much for doing that. It's very nice of you.
Thanks for having us,
Yes?
guys.
Oh, you do have something. Wonderful. Great.
Is this on? Oh, okay. I do have a question on how the preparation of this food will be made. So most school lunches are frozen, and you talk about this locally sourced and made from scratch food. How will that be prepared for everyday lunches?
So we have a point of not speaking poorly about anybody, but our food is going to be infinitely better than what you guys have now. The cooks in the kitchen are going to be bringing in much more fresh products. There's going to be chopping, and there's going to be sautéing, and there's going to be grilling, and there's going to be actual cooking going on. I think when you're in the restaurant business, you know, which is a very difficult business, you know, buying a new oven is a huge deal, and you're working with equipment that's faulty, and everything's a disaster, basically, in the restaurant business. And then we would walk into these schools, and they had these stunning kitchens. It's an absolute dream for a chef. And when I first got started, I said, wow, is this brand new? Did you guys just put this in? And they'd say, it's been here for like 30 years. Nobody uses it. Because to your point, it's all frozen. They'd take a frozen pizza, they'd stick it in the oven, and that's it. So I think the biggest difference is next year you're actually going to smell food being cooked as if it was in your house, and you're going to hear chopping, and you're going to hear maybe some chefs saying some bad words, but, you know, we'll keep them. We'll keep them in the back. Yeah, it's they'll say it exactly. When they say it in French, it sounds beautiful. Yeah. So, but that's the biggest difference is There's gonna be actual cooking going on as opposed to just reheating, food out of a can.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that, but I will not be at this school next year,
Oh, no.
sadly.
Let us know,
Um,
let us know where you're
yeah.
gonna be. We'll send some stuff off.
And I'm hoping that this can be a good opportunity for new students coming into the school.
That's great. It's
Thank
gonna
you.
be great for the district. Again, you guys are gonna have the best food service program, in Illinois, along with all the other districts that we serve. So the students deserve it, and this district is a wonderful district, and they deserve it, and we're just happy to be here. So, thank you all.
When I heard sauteing, my stomach started to growl.
We do have the motion and the second, I think, right?
Yep, we
Yes,
have
okay,
both motions.
okay,
Are you
go ahead.
ready?
Yep.
Okay. Weedman,
Yes.
Miller,
Absolutely.
Mack,
We.
Braden,
Yes.
LaCroy,
Aye.
and Albert.
C.
Oh, that was a fun vote. Okay, all right. All right, okay. The next action item we have on our agenda this evening is the motion to approve the gun safety resolution that we have been discussing over the past couple meetings.
I will make that motion, please.
I'll second.
Additional comments? Okay.
Okay. LaCroy,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Aye.
Okay, I do have a copy of the resolution here this evening as well, which I think we will all sign to give to Sue, so I'll pass that around at the end of the meeting. The next motion we have on our action, or the next item on our action item list is a motion to approve the resolution to join the Employee Benefit Cooperative as it has been presented to us.
Yep, thank you. And I believe we have someone here to speak about that from EBC, so please go ahead. We'll hand it right over to you.
All right. So thank you for having me. I'll give kind of the intro into why I'm here as well, because I know Chris is not here. So late last month, he did reach out to EBCs, to the Educational Benefit Cooperative, due to the renewal that was coming from your current broker for your health insurance benefits. So at the time, I believe your renewal was coming in for medical was at 28.8 on the PPO and 9.1 on the HMO. So a very high renewal that was coming through. So he did approach us as far as the cooperative to go actually give them a quote for the district. So the next bit of the presentation just explains who the cooperative is and also what the quote was back to the district. So you can skip past my agenda. All right, so as far as Gallagher, my name is Allison, I work for Gallagher, which is the broker consultant for the EBC. So Gallagher, our big focus that we actually have as part of our department is we are very focused on K through 12. We actually have over 200 plus districts in Illinois. So we have teams that are very specified just to focus on school districts and their benefits that they offer. And also we have two cooperatives, EBC being one of them, as well as NIHIP. And a lot of it is we just bring a huge understanding to what this actual business entails. On the next slide, as far as what the actual EBC is. So right now we are at 128 school districts, that is as of January 1st. So this is all across Illinois, from as far north as Zion School District. We have Decatur School District as well, as far south. And then we also just added our largest school district, which is Oswego 308, as of 1/1, and they're about 1,500 lives. So we go from on the smaller side, which is around 100 lives, some are a little smaller, about just over 50, and then obviously all the way to the Oswego size. So the whole purpose of the pool is it is self-funded. So, sorry, go back. Thanks. So the pool is self-funded. Everybody, as far as why these school districts come together, it is all about the law of like large numbers. At the end of the day, you're able to purchase a lot of the, your TPA services are all purchased at a much lower rate than what the district currently has. So right now, your PPO plan is self-funded with Blue Cross. However, the rates that you get, as far as with your stop loss, as well as with any of those admin fees, are going to be much higher because you're looking at it as an individual school district. The other thing as well is that when you're self-funded as an individual school district, you're responsible essentially for all of those claims that you're getting. You're not able to really have any sort of risk share. There's nothing that's happening, so you have to, anything where there's high cost claimants, you're responsible for those claims. The benefit of the pool and the reason why districts are joining the pool is because there is a risk share component. So what that means is that anything over 75,000, so each district is responsible for any individual member that has $75,000 in claims. And then anything over that, on the PPO side, between $75,000 to $1 million is risk shared amongst the whole entire cooperative. And then at the end, it's divvied back up to each individual district based on their size. On the HMO side, it's $75,000 to $350,000. After that, that is where stop loss kicks in. And because of the size of the cooperative, that's what allows the stop loss to be much higher, which also allows the rates to be much lower when it comes to purchasing. The other piece as well is with the cooperative is that all districts that are part of the cooperative have to also participate in the basic life as well. Each and every single district can have their own plan designs. They have like a lot of flexibility with their basic life coverage as well as with their medical coverage. So as far as what the district was quoted, so as I said already, your district had a 28.8% on the PPO and a 9.1 on the HMO. I realize these numbers are very small, but just overall to highlight. So a lot of what was leading to that higher increase that your current broker was giving was because of the high cost claimants. You had a lot of people, I would say like there was 2 people that had over $450,000 in claims in 1 year. And then there was even more, I think it had pretty much doubled from the period of time from 23 compared to 2022. So this was leading to a much higher renewal on your PPO specifically. So the EBC quote is at 13.1 on the HMO and 13.1 on the PPO. So it leads to, as far as the comparison, it's about $500,000 in savings for an annual. So as far as the actual EBC service platforms, as I said, Gallagher is the broker consultant for the EBC. So on a wide higher level, what we do for the cooperative, we do a lot of strategic planning. We look at ways to try and help to cost contain. Obviously, insurance is one of the most expensive things that the district is spending their money on. So we try to find ways to actually have cost containment. We also do a lot of your renewal projections. Any sort of times where there's a marketing that has to take place, we will do that on behalf of the cooperative. So we market, whether it's the pharmacy, the medical, life insurance, anything that's offered, we will market that on their behalf. And then as far as what we do for the district specifically, we come here to meetings, we do your insurance committee meetings, we help actually plan for the district as well. So any sort of plan changes that need to happen, we're available for those discussions. So just quickly in summary as well, so the reason why districts are coming towards the EBC is really because they're looking for that stability that they can get through the EBC. So previously, right now, what you have with your district, especially on your PPO, you have what we call PPO, their equivalent rates. At the end of the day, what happens is you get billed from Blue Cross, so your bill is going to be changing all the time, so it's harder to actually budget month over month and year over year. With the EBC, what you had seen with those rates that we've shown you, those are the rates that the district will pay. It's much easier to budget because the only change will be from month to month is actually your enrollment. So it works very similar to a fully insured plan. It's much easier to predict and to budget for. As well as we try to do any sort of cost containment, as I mentioned. We look at different things, whether it's trying to understand the specialty drug market, which is a big hot topic because that's leading to much higher costs. And that's what's really impacting a lot of the time, is what's impacting your rates is actually your specialty pharmacy spend. So we look for different programs that are available, constantly looking to try and find new ways that we can bring and introduce cost containment measures. As well as the other piece as well with the cooperative. So a big component is my last point as well, is there's something we call the banding formula. So essentially what happens is we look at the EBC as a whole, and we look to see how much money was collected by the EBC for their premium, and then how much was spent out in claims. And we come up with as far as what the actual EBC average is and what the renewal adjustment would have to be for the next year. with each and every single district, you will never get more than 5 points above the EBC average or 5 points below. So if you're doing really bad, as somewhat how this district has performed this past year, if the EBC average came in, let's say on the PPO side at 7.3, even in a really bad year, the district's renewal would not be more than 12.3%. So this kind of helps to contain those costs as well and allows it to have a bit more stability within the district. So any questions? I know I did that really fast. So any questions?
Yes. So again, I'll ask you too, since this is a transition and our job is to monitor and to communicate back to our community, what should we be looking for? And I'm going to ask specifically, when it comes to sustainability, we're looking at the social, financial certainly, so costs are absolutely important, but we're also looking for the social impact. So do you have any way that we could kind of track the health of our staff and employees with COVID and the mental health challenges that they've had, as well as the physical health? Like, what could we look at that would tell us how we're doing as employers in terms of protecting our staff, our employees' health?
So I would say the actual benefits you offer themselves, they're really great benefits. I've seen your benefit plans and plan designs. Your employees have great access to good providers through Blue Cross, both on the HMO and PPO side. When it comes to the sustainability as far as the cost, this being part of the cooperative will help to maintain that and control that. Over the 5-year, and I realize we're not just looking at financial, but on the financial side, however, the EBC average for the past 5 years is about, the renewal adjustment was 6.4% on the PPO and 5.6% on the HMO. So that just shows over a 5-year period, even the ups and downs of the COVID years, that there was a sustainability on the financial piece. As far as what the district is doing, when they come into the EBC, there's no changes to their plan, so that actually helps them as well. They don't have to worry about anything changing, the benefits changing. They're still going to be able to see the exact same providers that they're able to see today. And as far as looking at how your employees are doing overall, I mean, that's a hard one to gauge as far as when it just comes straight to just insurance. I think it's making sure that they have access. They know that their benefits, what their benefits are, that they're educated as far as what they have, their benefits will actually cover. And we try as much as possible to be available to the district for that. You know, we want to make sure your employees understand the great benefits that they have, and that if ever they're in a tough situation, you know, we are also able to assist with claim sort of situations. We try to get to the bottom of why a claim is not being paid. So we do try and have that and I feel like that's where a lot of stress can come from if something's not being paid or you don't understand your benefits. So we try to help navigate this weird and confusing world of insurance.
You mentioned that cost certainty was a benefit of being part of the cooperative here. And I used the word certainty. I guess I'm really trying to quantify that. So once we have our premiums for the year, do we have 100% cost certainty at that point, or is there still risk dependent on claims that are made by our population in the year, or is it 100% certain?
So yeah, the rates that you were given as of the rates that we shared with you right now, those are the rates from 7/1 to 6/30. So there's no change in that.
On the premium side?
On the premium side, correct.
And then is there anything additional that comes on the back end with claim usage or claim size or anything else?
No, so what ends up happening would be the next year, we would just look specifically at the district's utilization to come up with your own district loss ratio, and then that will determine where you fall in that banding formula.
Okay, and then once that banding is determined in the premiums, we agree to it, we have cost certainty again for a year?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I am curious about any wellness initiatives. I believe we had those before with, are there comparable programs?
Yes, so I know your district already offers to their employees, they have access to biometric screenings and flu shots with Empower Health. That actually remains. It's a big part of the cooperative as well. There is a wellness incentive program. So actually offer rebates back to the district for participating in different wellness activities or well-being activities, as we prefer to call them. So yes, it's a big, huge piece of the cooperative, and so there will be no change for that, especially what your employees will experience. If not, there'll be more.
Okay. We have the motion and the second, right? Nope. We don't. I thought we did. I'll need a motion. I'll read it again. To approve the resolution to join the Employee Benefit Cooperative.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay?
Albert,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Aye.
Okay, and our final item this evening on the action items is a motion to approve the engagement agreement for consultancy services with Gawalt Hamilton Associates. Need a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
Can
You
speak
wanna
about
speak
that
to
a
that?
little?
Yep.
Yeah. So the administration is recommending to the Board of Education that we engage with GHA to provide support to the district through a consultancy engagement through June 30th, 2024. GHA is an engineering firm, and they focus on investigating, designing, and constructing projects with maximum cost efficiency. GHA will assign Mr. Scott Gonke, who's here today, give a wave, sir, there we go, to be the principal consultant to School District 46. Scott has an extensive background in facilities, which includes 10 years of construction management and 12 years as Director of Operations. And fun fact, many years ago, Mr. Gonke was construction manager he was the construction manager who led the project that became University Center, where GMS students are currently going to school. That's GMS East, and he built it. So thank you for that. Scott will be assisting with overseeing the continuing repair work at GMS, as well as assisting with enhancing a variety of structures within our operations and maintenance department. So I'm curious if anyone has any questions to me or to Mr. Gonke.
Thank you.
Just so you know, I'm a taxpayer in this.
Yeah.
I did vote yes, and I even dragged my 23-year-old out of bed early in the morning.
And actually, I will state that I met Mr. Gonke for the first time at one of our community meetings where he sat in the audience and asked questions. So it's really nice to meet him there. And then, more to say. Then also we were together at the Lake County Safety Conference recently. And Mr. Gonke is actually an expert in school safety, and we're already engaged in conversations about various safety and security matters. So although it's not written that way as that's what he's consulting about, that is one of the structures of our O&M department is safety, and so he'll be able to assist us with those matters as well.
Thank you and welcome. Okay.
Mack,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Okay.
No Weedman. Okay.
Go ahead. Yep. Okay, that brings us to the sustainability presentation.
Yes. Okay, so Mr. Wildman is not feeling well. I think you saw that. And so we're taking care of our colleague, which means that I'm going to be jumping in for him. I know I've got some great partners here. So board, you are always so gracious to us, and I know that you'll be able to just be flexible as we're maybe a little bit less smooth in our presentation tonight. So I'm going to ask that everyone who's presenting just come on front with me. Perfect. All right, we just figured it out, so here we go. All right, so board, you know, we've had many conversations over the years, and this year certainly, about sustainability, and we have quite a few topics to share with you this evening. With me, we have a vendor that we're going to be working with. We're excited about that, or have started, along with some members of our Resource and Conservation Committee. All of this is about empowering learners, creating equity, and cultivating community. I think we're going to be focusing a lot today on cultivating community as we make changes together on the betterment of our community. These topics are guided and governed by these 3 board policies, all of which we've spoken about quite a lot lately. And here are the goals of the Resource Conservation Committee: to reduce the amount of solid waste that the district generates. And the committee is charged with, we are intended to review methods and procedures used to reduce solid waste generated in the school district, and identify indicators to monitor the district's progress, and make recommendations to further reduce the amount of solid waste that is generated. So today we're going to be updating you about our committee. We have met 4 times so far. This committee was just created back in January 2023. So we met in January and April of 23, and then October this school 23, and then this past February. And we're going to be sharing with you information about our committee work. We are currently in the process of creating a lot of baseline data, which we will have collected by June 24. So we're going to be talking about printing and paper use, other waste, investigating other energy options, composting, and we're also going to do a green cleaning update for you. And I think I'm handing it to Amanda. Yep. All right.
All right. So as I've shared with you earlier this year in the technology update, we implemented PaperCut over the summer. PaperCut is a print management system that allows for something, it's called follow me printing. So a staff member prints from their computer, it hangs out on a server until they go and release the copy or the print from a machine, a copy machine. It allows for flexibility for staff, but more importantly for this presentation, it allows for a reduction in waste and security of sensitive documents as well. So as Dr. Glickman shared, this year we are gathering baseline data about all of the different initiatives, and PaperCut does a really great job of providing data for us. I know this is really small, and I apologize for that, but we are looking at this data every quarter. So we're looking at 3-month chunks of time throughout this school year, and this is the most recent one that we looked at in January. It breaks down by building, and it gives us some really interesting metrics around comparing light bulb energy and tells us about trees saved. I think the most interesting report that PaperCut gives us is the saved prints report. So it tells us how many times a staff member sent something to the printer and then didn't actually release or print that job. So I apologize because I can't see that number, but it's real big. So there's a lot of paper that's being saved because things just aren't spitting out of copy machines and waiting to be collected. People actually have to go to the copy machine and say, okay, spit it out now, and for them to collect it. Additionally, the district has what we call the print center, which is housed at Park campus. And those jobs kind of go through a different workflow than PaperCut. And so these are the numbers from the quarterly reports that we looked at during our Resource Conservation Committee meetings. And we also keep track of the paper that we order throughout the district. So not every piece of paper that we have in use in the district goes through a copy machine. There's also paper used for lots of other reasons in classrooms. So this kind of breaks down the amount of cases of paper that we have ordered. I just want to note that Park is much higher than other buildings, but that's because that also incorporates the print center that the entire district uses. Yeah, thank you.
Certainly. All right. So we had a conversation at a board meeting, I believe, recently about recycled paper. And so this comes from school code. that basically explains that, well, I'm just going to try to read it for you. Each school district shall periodically review its procurement procedures and specifications related to the purchase of products and supplies. These procedures and specifications must be modified as necessary to require the school district to seek out products and supplies that contain recycled materials and to ensure that purchased products and supplies are reusable, durable, or made from recycled materials, if economically and practically feasible. In selecting products and supplies that contain recycled material, preference must be given to products and supplies that contain the highest amount of recycled material and that are consistent and with the effective use of the product or supply, if economically and practically feasible. And so what I want to share with you, board, is that there was a time in which we were indeed using recycled paper. We are not currently using recycled paper. The paper that we were able to gather and that we were able to use was of poor quality. And so it was no longer considered economically and, practically feasible for that reason, as well as the fact that it was extremely expensive, much more expensive than non-recycled paper. That's regrettable, and we look forward to being able to change that at some point if we're able to find paper that is economically feasible for us and is of a higher quality. I'm going to hand this over.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. So as you know, I shared with the board in January maybe about the technology property disposal that we went through. Although this wasn't necessarily part of the Resource Conservation Committee, it definitely contributes to being responsible in the way that we are disposing of our property. And the vendor that we went with for this property disposal has a zero waste policy, and we've talked a lot about that, and I just wanted to highlight that as part of this work also.
And do I remember that we're going to be bringing back some technology property disposal soon? Is that right? Yeah, we are. So we have more on that to come.
And we'll have a report from the vendor when it is available.
Got it. All right. Investigating other energy options is one of our conversations that we've been having. It is a facilities strategic plan goal. And we're just, the conversation is under Solar 2.0 because we know we have solar panels in some of our schools. So under discussion would be Meadowview, Woodview. We had a new roof put on Woodview in the summer of 2023. And then Avon Center School, which will have a new roof completed summer 2024. I can tell you as recently as today, Mr. Wildman and I were in conversation with Mr. Gonke about some other options for having appropriate energy, renewable resources and things that might not even be solar panels. So more information about that to come. We're glad you're here, Scott. All right, moving on to a composting update. I think we've got 2 people. All right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Katsaros. I'm the owner of Brightbeat, a sustainability consultancy, and I'll give a little history on my relationship with the school and the county in a minute here. But first of all, so composting update, the decision to compost food scraps was very much of a data-driven decision, and it relates to the fact of the vendor that left already. They mentioned, 24% of municipal solid waste, or basically the garbage that exists in the country, in the United States, 24% of that is food. And sadly, 40% of the food systems, 40% of the food that is generated through the food system is also wasted. So food is a big problem, hence the focus on composting. And, those percentages are important because they're kind of standard and related to, like I said, the country, but specifically here and in school cafeterias generally, 80 to 85% of the weight of trash is food. So the significant impact of getting that food out of the waste stream will significantly reduce trash. There's financial benefits to that, social and economic as well. The collaboration to bring a program like this about is 100% dependent upon working with your food service operator. So, you know, it's too bad Organic Life isn't here to share. I'm hoping and hope you'll find that they have done this elsewhere and are committed. But otherwise, you know, working with Roberto and kind of discussions we've already had, I think the operational standards that are set by the school will be executed by your contractor. And that's key. Any of the program design is really done from a sense of operational feasibility. So this should go along with what they do already, as I'll get to. And the focus for the last school year and this school year has been Grays Lake Middle School and Park. So quick history, in 2018, I initiated a contract with the Village of Grays Lake and the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County. I was brought in to educate businesses, really draw up educational materials, identify who the commercial properties are owned by in the village, who's generating a lot of wasted food, and what could we do to engage them to take on composting and recycling, educating them on all that the village does to incentivize businesses to recycle and compost. And really the village's commitment to sustainability is represented by me being here and by all the work that we've done leading up to this. I do want to thank Dr. Glickman, because we met over Zoom in 2021 when I gave a presentation with Pete from Swelco, Pete Adrian, who was mentioned earlier, is right there, his colleague Merlan, and I, and other representatives in the Zero Waste Schools kind of ecosystem presented to Dr. Glickman and answered questions about what it would take. Mr. Wildman, Chris was there also, and anyway, here we are now. And so last year we launched back of house composting. We'll explain what that is, and then now we're launching front of house. So first of all, just to understand the program, commercial composting is the recycling of organic material, food scraps, also leaves and brush, but in a commercial setting, you're able to include meat and dairy, which aren't always, not ever really recommended in your backyard, soiled paper as well. And we're very fortunate that Midwest Organics Recycling is located here in Lake County on the border of Lake County and McHenry. They are an OMRI certified, an organic certified compost manufacturer, and they accept our material. So it's a win-win, and they're a great group. So locally here, the organic waste is collected in separate bins, both in the cafeteria and behind the scenes, and then it will be taken in certified compostable bags to the space where it will be hauled away. The compostable bags are used in the bins that you see, the green bins specifically, that you see to your left or right, depending on where you're sitting. And then they are also utilized in the kitchen spaces. And the school staff is, you know, they're instructed to change their standard operating procedures, but really it's just take this color bag and put it in this bin. It's in the work that I do across many institutions and businesses and events and cities, it's all about really trying to stay aligned with what everyone is doing already and make it really easy. And that's the way this program's been designed. So the hauler, which in your case is Waste Management at present, they pick up the materials regularly and deliver them to Midwest Organics Recycling in this case, and it's turned into a compost or soil amendment, and that there's tons of research and beautiful depictions of, you know, a tomato plant using finished compost and a tomato plant not using finished compost, and you've got big red ripe tomatoes in one case, in the other case not always as much. So there's really a value. We're feeding our soil like we're feeding our bodies by composting. It is key and critical to align your procurement with infrastructure. That basically means use certified compostable packaging and certified compostable bags and make sure that those are accepted by your local facility, or maybe vice versa. Find out what they accept and then purchase the aligned items. And that's where these products have been identified, and also Warehouse Direct, I believe, is the vendor, but that was work that Roberto and others have been focused on and ensured that would happen. So back of house doesn't require student involvement. That's the kitchen area and, you know, maintenance team. The weight tracking is really standard operating procedures with food service operators anyway. They want to weigh the food that was wasted because they want to waste less. They want to save you money. They don't want to waste their own money. So really, again, it's standard and it's tracked in a spreadsheet. So similar to the paper initiatives, there's data to reflect how much is being composted, and that's reflected in the next bullet point. Since the beginning of the year, you can see 80 pounds of food was recovered for composting at Park and 113 pounds at GMS. I am going to pass it to Abby now. Thank you.
All right, I'm Abby Petrozinski, and I'm an assistant at Woodview School, and I just want to say thank you to everybody. This has been about a 10-year journey for me. I am kind of like a compost queen, like really, really into reducing how much waste we send to the landfills because it's really bad. So thank you so much for this. I just wanted to give a timeline for when we're going to launch this at Woodview, which is in the middle of April. So we've already started by doing a pre-launch waste audit. We did that today. It's kind of a rough number, but we generate about 5 bags, like large garbage bags of waste a day in the lunchroom, front of house at Woodview, and today it weighed in at about 88 pounds. And that subtracts even the cans themselves that were weighed on the new scale that was purchased by O&M in order to do these kinds of waste audits. So we will keep track of what the difference is, you know, beforehand and after. We also are announcing the program during conferences right now at Woodview. So we have a big display with a BenQ with a little video that tells how are kids going to learn this, how are staff members going to learn how to do all this. And it also will continue after spring break with a classroom lesson, which is a wonderful video that actually comes from Zero Waste Schools, which is part of 7 Generations Ahead. So thank you to Stephanie for sharing that resource. There are so many resources out there, but it will train the kids specifically. Why do we want to do this? Why do we want to quit throwing everything in the garbage and sending it off to the landfill that they see here in Grays Lake? They can actually see it here. And it will talk about the specifics about how they're going to sort their garbage, which we'll get to in a little bit. We'll have 2 sorting stations, and they will get lots of practice after watching the video with sorting different items into the proper bins for recycling, landfill, and compost. The staff, we want them as well to watch this, and in fact, we're going to request that parents watch it if they're interested in helping for the first couple of weeks to volunteer during the lunches to help with the sorting, just so that they're aware of what their kids are learning at school too. The week of April 8th, we will have student compost ambassadors selected from each of the classes, so they'll get a little badge towards the end of lunch to come and watch over, you know, the different streams and make sure that the right stuff is going in there, like plastics should never go in compost, that kind of thing. We have parent volunteers, as I mentioned. They'll be sending that sign up out after spring break. And ongoing waste and resource sorting practice will happen in the library because we'll be focusing on some Earth Day, Earth Month books in the library, and that will be kind of a passive activity that they can do the same practice that they did in their class. And then the week of April 15th, that's when we launch. The way that we are going to keep track of how much everything weighs, we'll have a QR code to a Google form for custodians to be able to scan it, enter in for each of the different bins that they have, how much it weighed when they put it on the scales, and then that'll track it in a spreadsheet for us. And we have the potential, as Stephanie mentioned, of really reducing how much by half we could, of what we're actually sending to the landfill. So that's pretty exciting to see what that'll look like at the end. And by May 1st, we're hoping to have some of the communications rolled out to the rest of the buildings. So the assistants, the custodians, and what we really, really need are building advocates, which would be, you know, assistants like me that are in the lunchroom monitoring lunches to make sure that we can really have success at each of our buildings. So that's still being worked out in terms of timing. Let me see, we can go to the next one. So this is kind of what the sorting station will look like. We'll have 2 of them in Woodview's lunchroom. One will be for hot lunch, one will be for cold lunch. First, they're going to share anything from their hot lunch that they didn't want, so whole foods, fruits, and anything that's packaged, nothing that's going to spoil. And then kids are able to take what, if they want something that's in the share bucket, they can take it for themselves. But we don't want kids bringing their home lunch food and sharing it in there because their parents might want that back if they didn't eat it during their lunch. And they can't either. They can't share, and they can't share that because of allergies as well, correct. Let me show you this is the share table. So just as I mentioned, the liquids will be the first thing that will be poured out. So their milk cartons will get poured into a bucket. And there'll be a strainer even in there to catch any straws because those plastic straws can't go into our recycling or our compost. The next slide, part of the station will be recycling. So they can put their milk cartons, juice cartons, any plastic bottles, numbers 1 to 5. Clean yogurt tubs and applesauce, we're working out how we'll get that accomplished. Any cans, which isn't typical at the elementary level, and then any cardboard. The last spot that they'll go to is the landfill. So anything, the way I look at it, it's any squishy plastic. And believe me, I have been surveying our lunchrooms to know what kids have in their lunches in terms of what will go to the landfill or can get recycled. And it truly is any of those squishy plastic materials that are Ziplocs or single-serve wrappers or Capri Suns. Plastic of any kind that does not get recycled, like straws, so that will all go in the landfill. And then the last wonderful one is just all food, and any soiled napkins or paper, if they have a paper sack from their lunch, they can put that in there as well, but again, no plastic. And then at the very end, for the hot lunch sorting area, they'll be stacking their trays, because those will be compostable, and then also the sport kit, I'm pretty sure we'll be getting some, and the entire thing is compostable as well. And then we have an activity, but because of the time, we could probably hold that and you can practice maybe at another meeting. Okay. And then this is, yes.
I do want to mention that a project like this really does need, I know Abby used the term ambassador before for students, but they also need adult ambassadors, and that is for sure Abby. And I just need to tell you, we were at the last Resource Conservation Committee meeting, and we knew we just needed to do something to get this project off the ground, and that needed to be a pilot. And I'm kind of looking at Abby across the room, and she's looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and she's looking at me. I finally said, Abby, would you, and she kind of voluntold her, but she was really volunteering. So we're so grateful to you for this. And the idea is that it's being piloted first at Woodview. We'll work out the kinks with somebody who's there and so passionate about working out those kinks so that we can then expand the front of the house program to all of the rest of our schools. All right, green cleaning update. I'm now standing in for Mr. Ochoa. So you may remember that about a year ago we talked about Pathosans. That is a new cleaning solution. It was new for us last year. Now we've been using it for about a year. These are solutions that are produced on site. They're made with water and salt and electrolysis. And together we are being able to create our own cleaning supplies that are safe and clean and green for our schools. This one I'm going to skip because I can't pull it off without having, oh, but look, Mr. Woke can. What do you want to say? Just say it into your mic. Awesome.
It's the concentrate that saves on the number of plastic bottles that are needed to use.
Thank you. I can't see how many there are there, but it seems pretty substantial. Thank you. Look, this is such a team effort. All right. So what's our summary? Well, as I mentioned, we're going to be rolling out the student composting to all buildings in collaboration with Brightbeat, but that's after we have completed this first round of a pilot over at Woodview. Thank you so much also to Mrs. Kathy Santelli for allowing us to do this at her school. We'll be continuing to gather baseline data through the end of the school year. Solar 2.0, so that's really just a conversation about what's next in our school district for renewable energy. And then in April, we actually have an entire board meeting that's going to be devoted to conversations about sustainability. So we're excited about that. And indeed, that does bring us to the end of our presentation. Board will give you a chance to ask us questions or comments, and then our student representatives, maybe you'll have some as well. But we'll start with you, Board.
So I missed a bunch of that. Can you start over?
Great.
No, I don't have anything.
Thanks.
So thank you for adding electronic recycling to paper and also landscape and organic waste. And I'm going to call out my friend Abby right now. And I know she doesn't like this, but I'm going to call you out anyway, because I don't think there's a person in this room that isn't aware of the commitment that you've made to our community. You've been recognized by the foundation for that, and you have created experiences that are hands-on for children in libraries, in gardens, and online through the USGBC's data platform, ArcScoreRoo, with the Youth Advisory Committee. And if you don't remember what that was, that is a data platform where students can collect data on energy, waste, water, human experience, and transportation. You have taken your professional experience through Hewitt and your professional experience as an educator, and you have made such a difference. So thank you. I'm also excited about the waste management opportunities that since we have Organic Life working with us, but I also have questions. What can we do to support you moving forward? And then in the present, what equipment or resources you need or have you used that you think have been really effective?
Anybody have answers to that? I would just, yeah, please. Like I mentioned before, I think we just need advocates. And I know we do have other people that are on the Resource Conservation Committee that have stepped up from other schools, so we just need to make sure we have them in all the schools. And then that scale, that was a great addition. I mean, it's just like a little, you know, we could put a few kindergartners on it if we want, but you can like roll a little cart on top of it, you know, and weigh the garbage. And so anyway, that kind of thing is gonna help a lot. Thanks.
And the only other thing I would say is that the economies of scale of all the purchasing and all the knowledge to go district-wide. And then at other schools, we've, you know, it's the model of bringing it into curriculum, finding champions. At a school in Chicago in a couple weeks, there's going to be, well, there is already an art contest or art program, and when the parent-teacher conferences take place on April 10th, there will be art about composting, about worms, about the earth, that the parents can see. There's a video that was created by the technology students with children in there in English and Spanish going through the motions of composting. You'll never see it, so I'll tell you, like it starts off with the principal making a mistake and everyone being like, ah. You know, so it's just a humor, but it's about the engagement. And Abby, I feel the same way, and I've only met her and already get teary thinking about how impactful each teacher and librarian and, you know, just every element, I mean, the board and stuff. So it's that engagement. That's what's most important.
I just want to say thank you. My question had been, I was planning on asking, what are you most proud of? But I think I can gauge that. So thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Students, do you have any questions for us or comments about composting? All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, we do have a couple of items for new business. The first one is the social media lawsuit update. Is that going down there, I think? Yep. Yep, no worries. No worries. No worries.
It was bring your own mic day, so. I'm just going to share a little bit from the board memo. So school districts across the country and across the state are joining a class action lawsuit against companies that own social media platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, among others. The suits contend that these platforms are negatively impacting students' mental health and are also leading to an increase in disciplinary issues in schools. The argument is that the algorithms and content on social media platforms contribute to cyberbullying, harassment, and the spread of harmful content, ultimately harming students' well-being. So the legal actions seek to hold social media companies accountable for the alleged negative effects on students' mental health and are demanding changes to platform policies and practices that could better protect young users. They are ultimately looking for a change in practice by these companies, but will also seek compensatory damages, which would be used to fund mental health programs within the school districts. There's no cost to districts to join, but the litigation, but there is data that must be compiled and questionnaires that must be answered that can take an estimated 5 to 7 hours.
Any comments or questions, board members?
I had a few, and I just want to be transparent because I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to read an email with some of my questions. So my first question is, does our administration have the time, and who on the team would be spending time on that data collection, that 5 to 7 hours that's anticipated?
I'm going to start by giving some context to what it would take to pull some data and what kind of data that we think we could pull. Social media usage is not a specific discipline topic that we have collected data on. It might fall under some categories like bullying, disrespect, technology violations. When I dug a little deep into some of those incidents, some of it's just being on the wrong website when you're supposed to be doing a learning activity and things like that. So we're not specifically tracking that data. What it would probably take is going through each one of those categories for every student in our district to read the descriptor to see if it connects to social media. That's not to say that our educators across this district, arguably across the educational system, are not seeing incredible distractibility rates with our students, with just even the notifications that come through and that kind of distraction. That's not necessarily directly related to the mental health outcomes that we see, but we also haven't been really collecting that data specifically.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, that sounds like that would take a lot more than 5 to 7 hours.
I do believe that would, and just trying to make sure we have the manpower to be able to do that and dedicate that time.
So, sorry to jump in on just, so is this where we would maybe start looking at maybe taking the opportunity to change how we do record some of our bullying, just see maybe a checkbox that says social media is involved. And some of, I mean, I think we've had those online threats where they threaten to shoot up the school or put a bomb in the school or have a big fight or whatever. Most of those have come to us over social media as well. So that, I would think, would be some of that data that would be included in that, correct?
Yes. We actually have new ISB requirement to be actively not only pursuing investigations of bullying, but also keeping really specific record keeping surrounding those types of incidents. And that's also something that we're seeing reflective in the federal civil rights data that's being collected. So we've already modified and informed our leaders what type of data that we need to collect and what specifications we need to connect each incident to, so we can report on that data and collect that and evaluate that data.
I just have a question about whether, so the data that you'd be collecting, would it be useful for anything other than the lawsuit? Like, is there another use for it that would be directly aligned with our strategic plan, or no?
I'll start, maybe she'll have more. From a discipline and a social emotional standpoint, yes. Moving forward, yes. I think from a tracking of the number of incidents, what kind of indicators we have for whether our social, emotional, and mental health supports are effective or broad enough to collect all of the needs that we're finding. It can lead to some program and system decisions and what we offer for students universally, and then working through the tiers of support that way. Additionally, it also allows our district to look from an equity scope to make sure that we're really identifying are there pockets of students that are profoundly affected by certain categories, with this being one of them. But I'm going to let her answer. Do you have others?
I was just going to echo kind of what Dr. Lorenzo shared, that we have started to collect different data and are looking at things a little differently moving forward, because some of this has helped us to have those conversations. I think it might be a challenge because we haven't been collecting that data to pull historical information to share for this specific purpose.
I just also want to add, thank you, that one thing that I'm not sure we could really collect a lot of quality data on, just because we're doing a whole lot during the school day, is the amount of notifications and frequency that has to be at a higher level of data collection, meaning outside our system, I'm pretty sure, unless there's some magical tech way to do that. But that has a significant impact on student learning and the function of the classroom, but it's just too high level for us to be able to track that kind of data.
All right, I was curious what the deans and principals think about this topic, because they're the ones dealing with these disciplinary issues the most.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Although we haven't been recording social media incidents as we've described, I can tell you that anecdotally, our principals and deans would absolutely tell you that social media is not just a distraction, but difficult for students' social, emotional well-being. And there are many incidents that happen very regularly. Jim, you mentioned threats, but there's also the rumors that get passed around. There's also just what it feels like to know that something is happening out in the world without you. We have two students here at the table who might want to make some, this might actually be a great place for the two of you to insert yourselves if you have anything you want to say about, maybe not about whether or not the school board should join a lawsuit, but just really what you see the impacts of social media being on yourselves or your friends. Any comments?
I actually do have a comment. So social media does have a really big impact on our everyday lives in middle school, especially because we're so influentially influenced. We're so influenced in our young adolescent states that some more advanced things that we are not a part of, we feel the fear of missing out, and we just want to join in on that. So some people may feel that it is more easy to express their feelings over a screen because you can't see somebody's face over the screen. So it is much easier to say something digitally than it is in person. And I assure you, most likely 80% of the time, somebody will not say that in person or to somebody that they know, because they know the consequences, and if you're anonymous online, then nobody really knows where it comes from. So that can pose a really big threat to a lot of students, and especially with the rumors being passed around and something that you don't know about. It's just, there's a fear of that, and like the fear of the unknown. So as a student, I use social media pretty frequently throughout the week. Not at school though, so I assure you, not at school. We do have a really strict policy on phones, so I'm not trying to get in trouble for that. But yeah, social media is a really big part of teenagers' lives today, and it can be a positive thing and a resource for some people, and some people may use it for the wrong reasons, but that happens all throughout the world at many different ages, and we really don't know how to combat this.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you.
I will continue on with my questions. How much freedom would there be in the use of the money, say we were to join this lawsuit? And if earmarked for mental health, can it be used at each district's discretion?
So that isn't really clear to us at this time. I think that's something that would be more clear throughout the process of if we were, as a district, decided to sign on. I would like to note that we had reached out to our attorney to gather some more information, and they shared a little bit about the process of if the case were to be won, how money would be distributed, and there's these, they call them bellwether districts, so like the people who initiated, and they would get a larger sum of money because they've been involved longer throughout the process. And the attorney said not to really expect much monetary thank you. Not to expect much money, but to really be looking, it's more of a political or social. Thanks. We're going to
Social impact.
This is a good team.
It's been a long day.
Student services, we're so close.
So it's more of a political or social stance, hoping to garner some change through those companies.
So I guess one of my concerns is to have this sort of taken out of context. Say we were to join the lawsuit. There are a lot of people, adults and young people, who use social media, and I don't want them to think we're like anti-social media, you know, because it is a tool that's used daily in our lives. And so that's one reason I might be leaning towards not joining the lawsuit.
Yeah, so as I heard the discussion, I couldn't really develop a strong feeling for it one way or the other. Your question just now prompted a kind of a similar question, which is, you know, the lawsuit, in addition to compensatory damages, also looking for a change in practice by these companies. Do we have any more information about what specific change they're driving for?
So I think they're looking to have companies acknowledge the impact that they're having to young adults, also how that impact then translates to school settings. I think change in practices as far as age restrictions and guidelines and safety protections and things like that.
I'm just getting them, those were great questions, and I really appreciated your comment as well from a student perspective. What I'm hearing is the lawsuit is based on historical data that we don't necessarily have. I'm not hearing that it is addressing the root cause. You know, I don't know that we know what the root cause is, but it sounds to me like it might be more of a turning point for us in how we handle the data and the decisions and our practices, more than it's almost just like a point where we could go, oh, this would be a great thing to do going forward, whether or not we decide to join the lawsuit. Am I hearing that accurately? Like, it's opened our eyes to some opportunities, but not necessarily the lawsuit itself. Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's generated some good conversations. You know, how we collect some discipline data is just one example of the conversations. I also think it's important to acknowledge the time that some of our building leaders are spending addressing some of these issues, and so
that was also.
I just think it's a worthwhile question, like how do we come together as a community to figure this out together? For sure, aside from the lawsuit itself, I think it's well worth the conversation. And how can we advocate? What is the legislative fix? I don't know, but like, is there something we can advocate for legislatively that would be helpful? Again, I don't know the answer to that, but.
I think you also have some of the unforeseen costs, right? Yeah, they're gonna have some, if we go forward, there's gonna have to be some data collection and personnel time, right? And the idea is to change the social media platforms to make it harder to bully and false information and change the algorithms, basically, right? But then, besides any nominal dollar amount that might come to the district, you have the unforeseen savings of how much time our administrators have to deal with talking to students about their social media use, disciplining students because of the social media abuse. And in reality, that's probably going to be more savings of manpower hours to do other things that need to be done versus any new dollars coming in for any wellness programs, right? So the idea is to change the platforms to be more socially conscious, I guess, if you want to use those words. And then that helps us probably pull back on how much time and effort our administration and our deans and everybody else has to do to deal with that problem inside of the schools. And they can concentrate on far better things for our students.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards not, just because I have a lot of questions about the efficacy of using the judicial system to protect kids from this, and I have a lot of questions. I'm also wondering if we could follow the lawsuit intentionally so we can learn from it without committing manpower to it, or woman power, people power. But I do really like the idea, the temptation I have is I love the idea of tracking any of that to start assessing our students' social emotional health so that we could, to Jim's point, and Christy's too, I think, and everybody's, funnel some of our resources into more of the preventative programs like our Kindness Matters. And I'm wondering if that would be a better use of people time, but also have some of that data so we can track it a little bit too. So I don't know if that's possible, but that's where I'm leaning.
I'm tending to lean on not joining it as well. But I really, really value the student perspective more than I think we ask for it generally. And I think we need to make sure that we very intentionally include those voices in how we track and monitor that. A recent experience where one of my children asked for a particular platform, I did an informal survey of my own students because I wanted to know what they said rather than me just deciding flat out as a parent whether or not to do it or not. And it's fascinating the responses I got. So I think that voice is incredibly important, and we keep that at the forefront of our conversations.
That just might be an interesting focus for future leadership teams from Park and GMS. That might be an interesting.
I would love to hear that story.
Area of focus around social media. So that.
Okay. All right, we have one last item. It's getting long this evening, so a staffing plan is up.
It's open mic night. So I am last this evening, the staffing presentation. It is a short presentation, but it's extremely important because our teachers, our staff are what directly impacts our students, and any benefits that we see coming out of the students, all the growth that comes out of them can directly be tied back to our staff. So we always begin with our mission, empowering learners. That's what teachers are doing. Creating equity, we do that on a daily basis in a cultivating a community of learners. So this is a lot of words, but this is a little bit about the process. Breaking news, nothing changed in our process. Each year in late January, we pulled numbers. Thank you to the tech department for pulling those staff numbers out of Infinite Campus, or the student numbers out of Infinite Campus. And then each year I'll roll the numbers up. It's called the cohort survival method. So this year's kindergartners become next year's first graders. This year's first graders, next year's second graders. I can go on, but you get the point. So then I'll have a meeting with our administrators, our building administrators. We'll take a look at the number of sections that they currently have, what we're seeing in the movement of their students. And so then we have the just difficult conversations, good conversations, a lot of conversations about what we're going to be needing for next year. For the past 4 years, when I come up, I project a slight decrease in our student population. One of the things that we can't forecast is our kindergarten numbers and our pre-K numbers. And I'll get to that. That has its own slide in a second. But it's very difficult we can't go around knocking on doors. We don't have the people power to do that and say, hey, how many 4-year-olds do you have that are going to be coming into kindergarten next year? It's just not possible to do. So what we do for our kindergarten class, for our projections there, is that we keep our numbers stagnant. So this year's number remains this year's. So that's kind of one of those things that we can't project very well. We did take a look at the CASARDA report that we looked at, that we had done, and we are trending how the report projected. But over the past 4 years, we have seen a decline projected in our enrollment. For the past 5 years, I took a look at a lot of historical data with this, but we've continued for the past 5 years to see an enrollment between 3,450 students and 3,550 students. So we are like right in that 100 student range. Now, that's not a lot of students. I mean, but when we start to look at staffing and we draw this across a district, that can be important to know, because 2 kids here, 5 kids here, it all makes a difference on when we take a look at staffing. And then I always want to point out that we do have our collective bargaining agreements that give our class size parameters, and that is kindergarten through 4th grade, 25 students in a classroom, and then 5th through 8th, 30 students in a classroom. And then I just added some projections of where we look next year, depending upon where we're at. 17 to 25 students in our kindergarten classes, kindergarten through 4th grade, and then 17 through 29 in our 5 through 8s. It just depends. It's a certain class that you're looking at across the board. So this is what our projected numbers look like next year. I have a little cool laser pointer. So as you can see, pre-K numbers we keep stagnant, kindergarten numbers we keep stagnant, and then we just move everybody up a little bit. At the end of the, you can take a look at like what they are now in that last column, current 23-24, and what we're going to project for next year. Our current 8th grade class is very similar to next year's 8th grade class because of what our 7th graders look like. I'll give you a second to look at those numbers because it's a lot of numbers in different formats. Okay. As I stated earlier, that our pre-K and our kindergarten, it has their own slides. Pre-K always starts off very small in the fall, and then as the year goes on, students hit the correct age for early intervention, or more students qualify for, I should know this, what do they qualify for? Is it early intervention?
They qualify for early intervention through birth to 3, and then early childhood education at 3 years old.
Thank you, and I'm sorry for catching you off guard. So our number always goes up throughout the year. We're usually at about 160 to 180 students at the end of the year in early childhood. I also added our kindergarten numbers so you can take a look at a 7-year trend. If you take a look all the way to your right, you see a fairly low number, 330. We've gotten as high as 385. This year we're looking at 355. You'll see some numbers dip in there in about the middle. That would be our COVID years. So we saw a trend, or we started the trend down in kindergarten because people were not either sending their kids to school right away or they were sending them through private kindergartens. So in summary, what are our staffing changes for the 24-25 school year? The first one's not a staffing change, it is a programmatic change. It's just where we're having a program. Due to the low enrollment numbers in our Meadowview one-way dual language program, we just had low enrollment numbers there because that program was Woodview and Meadowview students. And so what we'll be doing there is we'll be identifying what kids might go to another building. So those students were going to be split up between Prairie View and Avon. We've already met with the parents. Dr. Diaz has met with the parents to find out if your child goes to this, if they're going to go, Meadowview student going to go to Avon, would you still like to remain in the program, or would you like to stay within your home school? So it's just the conversation that she's having on the back end with parents to identify where they might want to have their child placed for next school year. Across the district, as I shared, we are going to see a trend down in numbers. And so what that means is that we're projecting to have to reduce 3 classroom sections across the district. We are also going to be reducing a interventionist position at Meadowview. This position was due to us projecting numbers at Meadowview in a specific grade and those students not being there. That was one of the first times that's happened in my tenure. And so what we did to utilize that individual, because it's so late in the year, we're talking August now, that students didn't enroll, we converted that person to an interventionist. So they were working with students on a small group basis, but we're going to actually reduce that position, and that's going to go back to the classroom. And so you ask, what are we going to do with these individuals, because these are very important people and very good teachers. At the time of this presentation, we don't have a crystal clear picture on what we're going to have to do in terms of a reduction in force, RIF, or if these positions will be reduced through attrition. So maybe a staff member decides to retire, or like last minute, or somebody takes another position, or somebody decides just to take a year off. So we might be able to move people around that way. So we pulled the staffing, or the report that we have to pull through state law. And so now we're starting to look at that, and we're starting to look at our vacancies that we have and say who can teach where. So and our goal is never to have to let somebody go, but that's what we're looking at right now. Any questions?
I actually have one.
Yes.
Can you go back a slide? Can you tell us if this is a true statement, that when you were talking about the reduction in classroom sections across the district, you're talking about our English-only sections, 3 classroom sections, right?
Those are non-bilingual
Correct.
classrooms.
So English-only,
Correct.
yeah, English-only classrooms. But the one-way dual with Meadowview, with closing the program at Meadowview and having the students who are currently going to the Meadowview dual language classrooms, those students being absorbed over to Prairie View and Avon, doesn't that also, isn't that also decrease the number of bilingual teachers that we need?
Yes.
Okay.
But through attrition, we're able to
Correct.
place them.
Certainly, so it's not, we're not having a conversation about needing to RIF any teachers. My goodness, it's almost impossible to ever imagine having to RIF a bilingual teacher, right? We're always looking for bilingual, multilingual teachers, but we will actually need fewer next year, correct? So it does decrease
That
our
is correct.
staffing.
That is
Okay,
correct.
just wanted to clarify that.
But we have several vacant positions for next
Yeah.
year that we are able to move them to.
And in fact, as we speak, the reason that Dr. Diaz is not here is she's searching for multilingual teachers. So we do still need them, for sure, but we just, the staffing is a little bit smaller.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time. Oh, wait.
Thank you. No, thank you.
sorry.
Thank you. Okay, topics for future agenda items.
Well, we could have another 2.5-hour meeting next time, or a meeting with just these 3 agenda items that I know about.
Sounds good.
You like that? All right, so as far, April 10th, we have Park Campus, 7th and 8th graders coming, leader of the pack, similar to what we had tonight with our GMS students. We have the DM group coming to do a presentation about our student services review, to discuss our opportunities moving forward. So we're looking forward to that. And I think the last time I told you that we think that we'll have a quote for security cameras for right here at Frederick School. We don't know for sure if we're going to have that. We're waiting on them. But board, last time we talked about it, you said, because we've done this before, if we do get the quote, just to bring it to you as an action item, not a discussion, correct? Okay, that's all I have for April 10th right now. Then a reminder to the board that the following week on Tuesday, not a Wednesday, but a Tuesday, April 16th, we'll have, Sue, am I correct, it'll be called a special board meeting? Is that right? Special board meeting that you've committed to doing, that is a self-monitoring meeting where we have someone coming in from Illinois State Board, that didn't come out the right way, coming in from Illinois Association of, school boards. And that is called Monitoring District Performance, saying what we mean and doing what we say. It will be an open board meeting, but it won't be recorded, and it will happen right here. And it's Tuesday, April 16th. April 24th is also a little bit of a different board meeting. It's not considered a special board meeting, but and we will still have some action items possibly. Certainly we expect to have our typical consent agenda, but most of that meeting will be organized around sustainability conversation. Yeah. And then, believe it or not, I'm moving into May and June for you. Can you believe the year's going that way? So May, we'll have the GMS student reps coming back, and then we're going to give you an update of our equity action plan. So that'll be kind of our end of the year wrap up for that. We do have a board meeting on June 5th. I don't currently have any agenda items for that meeting, but of course there will be some. And then on June 26th, we're going to do our goals update for you board. So, we do that every year to kind of reviewing what we've done in the past year regarding our strategic plan and what the plans are for the upcoming school year. Anything anyone has to add? All right.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Glidman. Are there any public comments signed up, Dr. Wool?
Liz Wixer.
One, yep, come on up.
Okay, so I'm Liz Wixer, as you all are aware. I had just a couple comments on a couple things, so I'm just going to read the title of what the agenda item was and then the comment. So really appreciated the GMS student leadership presentation. Just wanted to throw that out there. That was really good to see. Excited to hear them come back in May. I just wanted to say I'm observing how you guys are handling your student representatives to bring back to my own board. So thank you, and thank you for your input. It's very much appreciated. Look forward to seeing you at the high school. Nope, that's a question that I need to do later. Oh, the organic life food service, oh, they're not here, never mind, can't ask them. anyway, my question about that was, how do they do lower cost per meal? And is that the lower cost per meal to the district? Was I understanding that correctly? And that was my general question, so I'll email you that, Lynn. With the composting, one thing that I just wanted to hopefully bring up is it possible to get some of that compost to come back to the schools for school gardens, to see that full life cycle with the composting program? Also, I'm really excited about that. We compost in our house and we also recycle. My family of 4 makes 1 bag of trash per week. So it has the potential to reduce it by a lot. Actually, that was it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We do have a closed session this evening, so I'm going to read the items we need to read for the closed session. We do not anticipate any business coming out of the closed session, so we will adjourn the meeting from here into the closed session and then close the meeting from the closed session. But we are I need a motion to go into closed session in order to address public act. Have you signed up on the? Go ahead.
Doug Kearney again. So first, kudos to the wrestlers. That was great. And big kudos to the student representatives. You guys were awesome. I'm pretty sure that nobody here would have been comfortable speaking in front of a group at that age or any age. So big kudos to you guys. The social media thing, my suggestion would be pressure the lawmakers. Any litigious thing, there's not going to be any winner except for the lawyers. And a hearing in front of Congress, that gets things done. Either way, it's going to be a circus, either a lawsuit or in front of Congress, but at least trying the elected officials route is probably the best way to go. And the bullying it's a tough thing, and there's no magic solution. It's very tough. And, little groups of discussions between students and parents. As far as the social media aspect, a lot of that comes down to the parents limiting their kids' access, and everybody's different. So that's a very tough subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to enter closed session this evening, and this pertains to Public Act 5, Illinois Code 120/2, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against any employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, and Public Act 5, Illinois Code 120/2, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. I need a motion. Second? Okay. No, we.
Second.
Okay.
Who did the first motion? I apologize.
Did you motion? Okay, Jim.
Oh, thank you.
Just motion now.
LaCroix,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Weedman, and Braden.
Aye.
All right, thank you. We're going to move into closed session. Grab some food first.